We're an online retailer specifically building digital stores for record companies and artists. So we're a sort of eBay for the music industry, but instead of one website, we build individual websites for each of our record company and artist clients. We're one of the only platforms, e-commerce platforms, that is integrated within the music industry's economic framework. So we report all sales through to the official charts company, and we report to the Mechanical Copyright and Protection Society in terms of royalties for music that's downloaded and streamed via our sites, which makes us a very niche proposition to our client base, the music industry. A typical customer would be a record company, but they come in all shapes and sizes. In fact, one of our first customers was Fortune and Glory Records, which is based upstairs in this building. One of our more recent clients is EMI Music, for whom we've been developing websites and launched things prior to this Christmas. So from very small independent record companies through to majors. We first started promoting the emusu.com e-commerce service, which is our core product, in Midem in 2005, Midem being the World Music Industry Trade Fair held out in Cannes. And that was one of the initiatives that we received help for from the Passport to Export scheme. The first time that we went out there, it was as much market research as it was a sort of sales exercise. It resulted in us finding out just how far behind the music industry was in addressing the whole issue of direct-to-consumer retail, which is what our proposition is about. Our initial clients were, however, UK clients, and we retail on their behalf. So we would be selling their products internationally right from the word go. It wasn't until late 2005 that we actually took on our first international client, i.e. a label based outside of the UK. The thing that made me look for further help in terms of developing the international side of our business was really a result of an initial meeting I had with Creative Launchpad in Birmingham, who are a sort of signposting agency for business startups. They informed me of various schemes, the UKTI Passport to Export scheme being one of them. So I was aware that it existed quite early on, and certainly when we came back from Midem, the trade fair in France, one of my first calls was through to Business Link, who in turn introduced me to Jonathan Webber and Steve Kinane, who is my international trade advisor, and they were able to tell me more about the Passport to Export scheme and how we might use that to further our international activity. The process that we went through on the Passport to Export scheme started, I think, with an action plan. So sitting down with a trade advisor and talking about our sort of goals and objectives for the next 12 and I think 24 months. Talking specifically about which markets we thought we would be able to trade in most valuably. We then looked at trade events, trade shows around those specific territories, and we were able to identify a programme of, I think, 3 trade visits in 2005 and a further 3 in 2006. I then actually went to a sort of Passport to Export seminar, which was a kind of workshop really to help me identify how I thought our brand should be represented internationally, which was quite valuable. We had to go through the exercise of sort of drawing a coat of arms for the company, if you will, which I thought slightly cliched, but nevertheless it was incredibly sort of valuable in terms of how we perceive our business. So armed with our coat of arms, we then were able to benefit from 50% of the actual cost of attending these trade events internationally, both in terms of the actual delegate fee to enter a trade fair, and in terms of the travel and the sort of hotel expenses and so on. I think that the most valuable thing is the continuous path that it takes you on. There's no doubt that for a startup business, 50% of anything is extremely valuable, and the money really did make a big difference to us in that sort of early stage of our growth. We've not been sort of left behind in that that's led to introduction to the OMIS scheme. It's actually led to further support for trade visits that we've done outside of the Passport to Export scheme, and continued advice and interaction with the DTI and help in terms of planning our strategy moving forward internationally. There's a certain amount of work that you think you need to put in to get the best out of it, in terms of identifying what you are as a business and where you want to trade and how you want to do that. And the sort of mentoring process around that involves filling in a few forms and really assessing where you are and doing a bit of work to actually get down on paper who and what you are. Over and above that, the process was reasonably sort of natural and, as I say, progressive. The impact of Passport to Export and the international trade advice on our business has been pretty profound, I think. We would still be trading internationally had we not been through that process, but it's enabled me to channel the direction that the path that we've taken in terms of getting into new markets. The market visit support and the assessment in terms of contacts and leads out there in those international territories have meant that I've gone to those territories with an agenda and with people and pre-booked appointments that I knew would generate some business. So it's had a strong influence on that whole growth of our export activity. The markets that we're currently trading in and exporting to are many and varied. We recently sold a Pink Floyd box set to a GI on an American army base in Iraq, which was a novel address to come through the system. Similarly, we sold I think a Radiohead USB stick to someone in Beverly Hills 90210, which is an old TV program that I grew up with. So from Beverly Hills to Iraq and pretty much everywhere in between. It's probably true to say that the international side of our business represents over 50% of our current activity, certainly in terms of end user sales from the various music websites that we power. In terms of the overall business's activity, being an online e-commerce company, we don't necessarily see ourselves as constrained by any territorial barrier. Anywhere that the internet is available is the territory in which we trade. One of the things that when you complete the Passport to Export scheme, which is interesting, is that you're not just sort of left on a lurch. There's a continuous programme of trying to help and support businesses, and we were introduced to the OMIS scheme, and we actually will managed to secure through that some additional funding to help with what would traditionally have been unsupported trade visits, specifically in fact to India, where our technical operation is based. If I was to meet an owner of a UK business wanting to move into export markets, I think my advice would be not to do so unless you've thoroughly investigated the services that UKTI can offer. The reason that I say that is because for us those services have been invaluable, and there is no introduction into a new foreign territory that carries as much weight as a UKTI stamp.